From Allison as it continues to move on in. I guess the general mood, though, is now that dawn is breaking and everybody's waking up and saying, you know, like, where's the storm? This is it. There wasn't much to it. They sort of felt like, wow, we got through another one. We'll take that. Thanks. Mark?
Well, Dennis, it isn't over quite yet there. The center circulation is just offshore, and looking at the latest satellite and radar fixes on the center there, you are still a little bit away from the area of greatest concern, the strongest wind gusts and squalls. So still the potential for, over the next several hours, that you will be looking at an increase in rain and some strong gusty winds, which may cause a little bit of damage.
Well, we're going to keep a very close eye on it. Of course, we will keep you updated if there's anything to report on as far as the damage around this immediate area, and keep you updated every half hour.
Okay, stay dry.
I'll try.
We'll be hearing from you in about a half hour. Thanks a lot, Dennis. Just down the road from Dennis, reports about 5 inches of rain in Apalachicola, so in those bands, that rainfall is shifting about. Potential for tornadoes, as Dennis mentioned, South Georgia, North Florida. Tornado watches are in effect, and already on the radar this morning, we have seen strong storms move by Jacksonville Beach. Reports of some damage there earlier. Storms continue to move rapidly to the north and the southeast Georgia, so we'll keep you monitored on that situation there. So the three main threats are going to be very heavy rains, flash flooding, North Florida, South Georgia. Potential for tornadoes. That will be in South Georgia and North Florida as well. And that storm surge early this morning in the Appalachian Bay area could be 5 to 10 foot surge there. We'll keep you updated with live updates from Dennis every half hour. Now the latest on this nation's weather with Jody and Will.
Thanks a lot, Marcus. We'll check on the rest of the morning weather and show you what's going on nationwide. We're looking at another big storm beginning to develop across the Rockies and through the Pacific Northwest. This will become a major player later in the week. Looks like more severe weather developing throughout the Midwest, central and southern plains by midweek. Also another heat wave beginning to build. It looks like some great weather for New England today. You're back to sunshine, low humidities. Should be another gorgeous one. But the big story this morning, of course, has to be over the southeastern corner of the nation. We're still talking about and tracking Hurricane Allison off towards the north. Its top sustained wind still at 75 miles per hour as of 5 o'clock this morning. And of course, we'll have to watch out for maybe some severe weather as well, especially in southern Georgia, much of the state of Florida. Boaters on the west side of Florida today, in through the Panhandle region, stay in port. Don't even venture out, as you'll be looking at more feeder bands of precipitation wrapping around this system and beginning to pull on towards the north. Look at New England right now. Northward, tornado watches are in place now. Isolated tornadoes are very, very common as we look at landfalling tropical systems. That's the reason why we're looking at these now for southeastern Alabama, southern Georgia, much of central and northern Florida through about noon today. Probably be issued farther northeastward from there after that. And our precipitation potential, we see this swath of darker green right in here, locally 4 inches of rainfall, maybe 8 inches or better than that across northwestern Florida into southwestern Georgia during this afternoon. And again, wherever you see the dark green on this map, flood watches are in effect. That does include South Carolina, just about all of southeastern Georgia, and much of northern Florida through the afternoon hours. That's a look at our tropics. We'll have another live report where it will be centered over the southeast because Hurricane Allison continues to turn its way on northward. Heavy amounts of rainfall will be likely from southwestern Georgia through central Georgia into the eastern Carolinas. And for the southeastern corner, for much of southeastern Georgia today, locally 4 to 8 inches of rainfall. The same thing for northwestern Florida. Do be aware of that. With some gusty winds during the morning hours. And then we should be looking at a tropical system, not a hurricane. This should be downgraded to just a plain tropical storm within the next couple of hours. Again, we expect to see a lot of rainy travel throughout the southeast. Flood watch is already in effect where you see the green shading. South Carolina, much of Georgia, northern Florida, and the southeastern corner of Alabama. We'll expand our view and show you more raining travel back towards the west. And watch out for thunderstorms. Could be another rough day throughout the plain states, also into the southeast where these watches are currently in effect. The latest on Allison with Dennis Smith at the top of the hour.
Barely a hurricane, Allison continues to near the coast in North Florida early this morning. It's about 40 miles or so just to the south of Apalachicola. That's where the center of circulation is. Let's show you the latest satellite and radar. And as we go to it right now for you, you can see that the swirl now is over the northeastern Gulf of Mexico and continues to move its way slowly up towards the Apalachicola area. And this is forecast to move its way north and then northeastward with time. So Right now, we're looking at the heaviest rains moving through North Florida and through South Georgia. Here's the latest from the Hurricane Center, about 40 miles southwest of Apalachicola center of circulation. It's the 5 a.m. advisory. We've been keeping up to date with it with the local radar fixes and also from the hurricane hunters, and the pressure 989 millibars. So that's been kind of holding steady right in through there. Hurricane warnings continue in effect, Pensacola and Cloquet Key, and a big problem with this storm will be the storm surge coming in this morning to the east of Apalachicola, right through Appalachia Bay there. Already tides running 1 to 3 feet above normal, and we are looking for a surge possibly of 5 to 10 feet. Hurricane force winds right near the center of circulation, which is still offshore, off to the south of Apalachicola. Well, just off to the northwest there, we have been seeing some squalls up to about 40 miles an hour or so as the center of circulation nears. Here's Apalachicola here, here's Panama City. Center of circulation right in through here. It's moving slowly towards the north there and off to the west. That's where we have Dennis Smith stationed, and he's sitting on the beach. And Dennis, what's the scene there?
Well, as it has reported last go around, it looks like the wind's coming down a little bit. I'd say the peak wind gust we've had over the last half hour has been about 30 miles an hour. We've definitely seen a shift in the wind direction. It was almost out of due north in our last report at the half hour, and now we're indicating the wind's shifting a little bit around to the northwest, indicating to us here at Panama City that it's just about ready to make landfall down the coast towards Mexico Beach. Again, we're seeing a shift in the wind, but the wind speed's definitely coming back down a little bit, down to about 30 miles an hour. We're in a little bit of a rain pattern right now, but as we show you some scenes from earlier this morning before sunrise, we're indicating that once again the heavy rains were coming down and they were creating some flooding. In fact, Highway 98 has been closed from Tyndall Air Force Base just east of our location all the way down around Mexico Beach. Fortunately, not too much in the way of any significant damage. We've had some tree limbs down. We've seen the winds whipping up over 45 miles an hour earlier this morning, but things have quieted down as far as the winds are concerned. And again, Mark, we are seeing a little bit of a shift in the direction. I guess the main concern right now, as Allison continues to come on board, will be the heavier rains and also that potential of tornadoes. So we'll keep an eye out for that as well. Mark?
Okay, so Dennis, so just kind of rainy, kind of windy there, but really nothing extraordinary.
Nothing substantial. Again, we had the strongest winds probably about 2 hours ago. Now that we see the light of day, we can even make some reference points to flags flapping in the wind, stuff like that. And only about 30 miles an hour is the best guesstimation I can put it right now. But again, the rain is back into the picture for a little bit.
Okay, stay tight, Dennis, and we'll get another update from you about a half hour from now. Right now, it does appear that the main threat for northeast Florida will be from tornadoes. Already reports of some tornadoes outside of Jacksonville Beach. They're moving up into southeastern Georgia here. Everything's moving rapidly up from the south. So the three main threats from this hurricane, this minimal hurricane, will be the very heavy rains in North Florida, South Georgia, potential for flash flooding. Also that storm surge right around the Appalachia Bay area this morning, time of high tide around 8 a.m. local time. And 3, the tornado threat in northeast Florida and southeast Georgia. We'll keep you updated on where Allison is headed. Right now, it's headed towards Apalachicola and taking aim on Tallahassee. Now to the studio with Jody and Will.
Okay, Mark, let's check on the very latest. Keep in mind we have the tornado watch remaining in effect for the rest of the morning hours. Many landfall hurricanes produce tornadic activity. So from south central Georgia, across the panhandle of Florida, and a good part of the northern peninsula, we have this tornado watch remaining in effect. Now, this is not the only area where there's a threat of severe weather today. Of course, that's the only area associated with...
Jerry, thanks for being with us. We'll be talking with you, if not later this morning, certainly tomorrow. The questions remain, questions about the fate of an American F-6
rainstorm and not much more, and if this is the worst of it, it's not going to be that bad. Let's go back to Bob Kane in Atlanta.
Thank you, Brian. It's now 5 minutes past the hour. And here's an update on the situation in Bosnia.
This is like, because they have a beachfront house in Apalachicola, Florida. And good morning.
Good morning, Joan. How are you?
Well, I'm okay. I thank you for taking time out from what I know has been a very busy morning as you prepare for the possibility of a hurricane. What kind of things have you been doing to prepare?
Well, we're building a new house right behind the one where we live now, and we've been tying down plywood and trying to get our job trailer nailed down, and then putting boards across our windows and picking things up off the floor in case the water comes high. That's what we're worried about, is high water.
Yeah, Sally, I don't know how long ago you heard about this, but what's the toughest part of this for you?
I think the anxiety of waiting to see how severe the storm will be, and thank goodness it hasn't gotten too severe at this point.
Well, you say you have another home that you've been living in. You're building the new one. How long have you been in this area? Have you gone through this exercise before?
Well, last year, Joan, we had 3 storms come through, and I don't believe any of them were named hurricanes. The last one we had was probably as bad as what we're seeing here this morning. We can tell by how high the water comes up in our yard, and right now we have seagulls out there eating small fish where we have grass. So we have some water, and that's our concern, is the surge more than the wind.
Yeah, I'm sure you've heard the same reports that we've all heard, that this could be a bad hurricane season, especially with this one coming so early in the season. How do you prepare for this mentally as well as, physically out there, what you're doing?
Well, here's our mental preparedness department over here.
Well, mentally, I think you just do what you can do, you prepare as best you can, and then you wait.
Well, I hope you're taking good charge of the mental preparedness department there, Sally, because that is important. Listen, we wish you the best of luck, and hope it calms down before it hits there where you are.
Great. Thanks so much.
Thank you very much.
All right, the Williamsons from Apalachicola, Florida. Charlie?
Thanks very much, Joan. We turn to Bosnia now. It appears the situation there has deteriorated.
It's continuing to move toward the Carolinas, so it gets rainy up toward Norfolk by midday tomorrow. And a system comes into the northwest. It's going to get mighty cold. We've had snow in the Cascades of Washington, and it looks like the snow will continue and actually spread into Montana and Wyoming later on. Heaviest rain along the coast. Temperatures getting hot west of that tropical storm with that sinking air tends to heat in the atmosphere. Memphis down to the New Orleans area. Then once the tropical storm leaves the eastern coast, it's going to get mighty hot. Raleigh up toward Norfolk, Atlanta in 90s as we move on in toward the weekend. A little cooler to the north, 60s, not bad in Minneapolis, and around 70 in Chicago. So the remnants of some scattered thunderstorms behind the low into southern New England on Wednesday. Thursday, the next system brings some rain to the Twin Cities, down towards St. Louis, eastward to Buffalo, down towards Cincinnati on Friday, but basically a dry pattern except for the northeast into Saturday. Look at rain on radar coming right up.
Do they make super glues hard to use on purpose?
See what's going on here as the thunderstorms continue in Montana. Some of these are severe. We've had snow in the Washington Cascades, thunderstorms in the Midwest getting heavy around the Red River, and some problems in the southeast, all associated with Tropical Storm Allison. Heavy rains here in southwestern Georgia, and then we have another batch of thunderstorms coming out of, say, the Naples, Florida area into Lake Okeechobee and over toward Fort Lauderdale, so kind of a wet afternoon there. On to the north, we have steady rain from Raleigh down to Wilmington, Myrtle Beach. The Grand Strand area is wet this afternoon, and then some big problems in Georgia between Jessup and, say, the St. Simon's Island area. A couple of tornadoes possibly seen on Doppler radar in here, right where this clear area was earlier, but with the heat of the day, this area is prone to tornadoes this afternoon, especially in southeastern Georgia and with lighter rains back into the Atlanta area. So stay tuned. There are the thunderstorms in through the rest of the week from Atlanta to Birmingham, back through Dallas-Fort Worth, St. Louis area. Of course, Phoenix, you're always warm this time of year. Some of the desert areas getting up over 100 degrees. You want to cool off, go to Montana and Wyoming. Let's go to the satellite view. We'll show you the highlights. And as we put the satellite picture into motion, well, we had we'll call it a weak hurricane that moved on and really lost a lot of punch last night in the northern Gulf. Probably encountered some winds in the upper atmosphere, but nonetheless, Allison came on shore. Has a lot of rain with it in the clouds. You see the high clouds extend all the way up to Pennsylvania. Thunderstorms on the tail end of it in southern Florida at the current time. Pleasant day if you live in the northeast. I don't hear any complaints. And in the Midwest, well, we have some thunderstorms, but rotating to the north up and over this ridge of high pressure in the upper atmosphere. Southwest looking good, thunderstorms in between. We'll look at those. And a pretty powerful cold front for this time of year is moving on into the northwest. More on that in a minute, but I want to focus in on our tropical storm, what's left of it in the southeast. And there's Allison. Actually, looking at the wind field, looks like it's centered somewhere between Albany, Georgia, and Valdosta, Georgia at the current time. And it's losing its punch. Probably it'll be downgraded later today to a tropical depression. Nonetheless, has a lot of rain with it. Building thunderstorms, though, in southeast Georgia on into Florida. We'll focus in with the visible satellite picture. You can see the brighter white clouds indicative of heavy rain here in southwestern Georgia. We had a dry area in here earlier, but with the unstable air and the heating of the day, these dry slots tend to fill in rapidly, and we have tremendous thunderstorms building here down toward the Georgia coast into northern Florida, and we could have some tornadic activity in here as well. It's not uncommon with landfalling systems. This was the 11 o'clock advisory. I suspect the winds will be way, way down at the next one this afternoon, but in case you missed the coordinates, at the 11 o'clock advisory, there's where Allison was centered, and you can see it continued moving to the northeast. Tornado watch on the east side of that system, not uncommon, through the Carolinas to northern Florida. And of course, we also have a severe thunderstorm watch around the Red River there in Texas, Oklahoma area. But I'll show you the radar here. Big thunderstorms now. If you live in Palm Beach County, these are severe and capable of producing some very gusty winds and even some hail. And as we move on to the north, there's our circulation in here. And on the back side, some very heavy rain north of Tallahassee between there and the Albany area of Georgia. And then if you want to look on the other side of Allison, there's our area that we looked at earlier that's filling in with thunderstorms. Steady rains, kind of a tough drive today on I-20 coming out of Augusta to the Columbia, South Carolina area. And then again, I-95 travelers really in the rain, coming south out of the Raleigh-Durham area through Fayetteville and down into South Carolina. Then we have some thunderstorms north of Charleston. And in here, as you get down around Jessup, Georgia, between there and St. Simon's Island, these thunderstorms are capable of producing tornadoes. I wouldn't be surprised to have a tornado occur in this area anytime. And of course, last night there were a couple of tornadoes in the Brunswick, Georgia area that didn't cause any damage, fortunately. Up to the north, steady rain around Columbus, then kind of light rain, light to moderate rain southeast of Atlanta. And then as we move on up toward the northwest side of Atlanta, Cobb County and Cherokee County, just a little light rain. It's not going to be a big event. At least it keeps the temperature down. Temperature is in the low 70s, but I don't think a whole lot of rain is going to fall in Atlanta as a result of Allison. Beautiful day, Norfolk, Virginia, and the Delmarva Peninsula. There's the snow that's going. Clouds are going to be North Carolina and Virginia, but behind the storm, sinking air, sunshine, lots of humidity, and it's just going to be downright hot for you. Birmingham, Jackson, all the way back to the Dallas-Fort Worth area. St. Louis, typical mid-June heat and humidity.
On the way up, and winds are southwest at 8 miles an hour. Our low this morning was 63 degrees. Our high this afternoon, 83 degrees, which is 4 degrees above normal. All right, let's take a look and show you where Allison is right now. She's not a hurricane anymore. She's a tropical storm, having made landfall. Right now, this is the 5 o'clock posting. Allison is 30 miles northwest of Valdosta, Georgia, moving northeast at 16 miles an hour with winds of 40 miles an hour. So she's just a few miles an hour above tropical storm strength, and as she stays over land or moves out into the cooler water, she will lose some strength and then just become a tropical depression. But for now, she is still a minimal tropical storm. And it's going to affect our weather over the next couple of days. Not tonight. Let's show you what's going to happen this evening. But later on tomorrow, she will affect our weather. For this evening, we are expecting partly to mostly cloudy skies. We've got mostly cloudy already, maybe. 66 mild degrees will be the overnight low. For tomorrow, here is the call. It'll be a cloudy day with late rain, either late in the afternoon or tomorrow night. It'll be coming up from the south, so the first folks to see it will be folks in Delaware and New Jersey, and then the rest of us from Philadelphia on northward. And 80 degrees will be the high temperature. As far as how much rainfall we're going to get, it's going to be a good soaking in a lot of spots. An inch at least, maybe 2 or 3 in some spots. Very critical as to exactly where she goes. We'll have an update on that again when we check the 5-day at 6 o'clock. Those are the early words from AccuWeather. We're live on City Line Avenue. Back inside to Mark and Lisa.
Thanks, Jamal. Taking the season. Allison is now a tropical storm. However, that is little consolation to thousands of Florida residents knee-deep in water. Allison quickly lost her hurricane punch when she came ashore near Apalachicola this morning. Still, there was a 5-foot storm surge, and that put waterfront homes like Jean Brady's underwater.
This morning I stepped into deep water with a large electric fan in it.
Well, worse yet, Brady found herself boarded in because the condo association thought she had left with other evacuees last night. Allison spawned tornadoes, including one that shredded buildings in St. Mary's, Georgia, but did not cause any serious injuries. There is still concern, though, that Allison will mean trouble for the southeastern states with up to 10 inches of rain and more tornadoes. Coming up later in the newscast, we'll talk live with the National Hurricane Center to find out just what Allison might be bringing our way.
Back home, the argument...
All 6 Action News, Harrisburg.
Reporters gathered at Dilworth Plaza in Philadelphia. Jamal's execution date is August 17th. He was marched to the Philadelphia Inquirer. Jurors have been dismissed, announced...
For a scope of coverage you won't find anywhere else, this is Weather Scope Tonight.
Well, Hurricane Allison worked its way onshore around the Florida Panhandle this morning and then was downgraded to a tropical storm where it stands right now. And it's going to continue to weaken. I think the worst is over with Tropical Storm Allison, but we're still seeing some pretty significant rains. Thanks for joining us. I'm Sharon Rizalton.
And I'm Mike Seidel. Yes, the worst is over as far as the wind and as the severe weather, but tornadoes are still a possibility this evening. Allison made landfall this morning across the Florida Panhandle, and certainly the remnants of Allison now being felt far and wide up through Georgia and the Carolinas. At St. George Island near Apalachicola, the storm surge from Allison brought high waters which flooded streets and marinas. The surf started coming ashore early this morning, leaving many houses close to being flooded. One resident said it could have been a lot worse.
Compared to Andrew, where this is really nothing. So we're all pumped up about that. It's not that.
As the storm made its way across North Florida, it spawned several tornadoes. One touched down in Jacksonville, causing damage to property. The twister also damaged homes and the roof of an elementary school across the border in St. Mary's, Georgia. A teacher described what was left of her classroom.
Gone, and I'm glad it happened when it did and not 5 hours later, because nothing but equipment and things were bothered, and there are no children.
Not everyone on the Florida coast is suffering from the effects of Allison. In Florida's Bay County last night, residents and tourists sought shelter at a high school. But today, after discovering the storm didn't do much to their area, residents gathered their belongings and headed home. The Tampa-St. Pete area endured most of Allison's wrath late last night. Heavy rains and strong winds associated with the hurricane picked up just after 10 and continued through the early morning hours. Some flooding was reported along the coast at high tide. Now, wind damage occurred further inland. Some of the damage may have been caused by a tornado. Look at those rains and the results of the flooding streets in parts of Florida. As we check the latest status on the tropical storm Allison now in Georgia, nice rotation still, the moisture being spread into the Carolinas now. And eventually the rain will move into Washington and Baltimore later on tonight and right up the eastern seaboard to the Jersey Shore, and maybe some rain as far north as Boston a couple of days from now. But a pretty nice day tomorrow in Boston, New York, and Philadelphia. Latest coordinates put it about 30 miles north-northwest of Valdosta, Georgia as of 5. Pressure is beginning to slowly rise, 992 millibars, and it's moving northeast at 16 miles an hour. We'll have another update from the National Hurricane Center just before 11 o'clock Eastern Time tonight. Tornado watch continues for South Carolina and parts of Georgia. This is what we usually see when a tropical system makes landfall. There's a lot of spin with that hurricane or tropical storm as it is now, and that usually gives rise to minor tornadoes. We had a few, as we showed you, around the Jacksonville area, and a couple more maybe may form later on this evening as the watch continues. More rains, though, is going to be the big problem as the rains move up the coast, as what's left of Allison moves generally along the I-95 corridor. Flood watches continue from South Carolina and North Carolina into Georgia. And the radar shows a nice rotation here. The heavier rains finally pulling away from Macon, but now moving towards Augusta and the Savannah River Valley. We'll see these rains move into South Carolina. Watch out around Columbia, into Florence, and then later tonight and tomorrow, Fayetteville, Raleigh, Durham, and the Rocky Mount area of North Carolina, where it's already raining some, but the heavier rains will move in this direction. And unlike Beryl and Alberta, remember last year when we had the flooding in South Carolina, or rather in Georgia and Florida, this storm is moving pretty quickly in comparison, so the rains are not going to stick around very long. But the rain we've seen has been very heavy. This is our Doppler rainfall estimated storm total. It continues to add up in parts of Georgia as we speak. But you can see around the Panama City area, upwards of 7 to 8 inches of rainfall. Heavy rains here, but now skies are clearing out, and the sunshine is on the way back in.
And while people in the southeast are dealing with the tropical storm Allison, the central U.S. is on alert for severe weather. Tonight's weather is actually similar to last night's. A lot of heat and humidity, a lot of elements coming together in the atmosphere. Plain States. Yes, it is another active night. Jones County, Fisher County in Texas under tornado warnings for radar-indicated tornadoes. And as you can see, there's actually quite a bit of moisture out there. all the way on up into the upper Midwest. This mainly in the form of some scattered showers and a few embedded thunderstorms. But the severe stuff we're expecting down around the Red River Valley, extending on into northwestern Arkansas, around the Fort Smith area. A couple of hours ago, saw some strong thunderstorms rumbling on through. Up around Enid, Oklahoma, severe thunderstorm warning in effect here as this one rolls on through. Actually, that's a tornado warning, and that's in effect for Garfield County for a radar-indicated tornado. So we'll have to watch that one very closely. All this action is moving fairly slowly, about 15 to 20 miles per hour to the east, and we're going to watch and see if these actually hold together. They may actually get factored in to the Dallas-Fort Worth area a little later on tonight. Again, some of these do have a history of possibly producing some tornadoes, and we have had reports of